Senator Pauline Hanson, the leader of One Nation, and she joins us now from the federal parliament. Senator, good evening. How you been, Pauline?
Hi, Paul. Great. I've been on the road quite a lot, actually, so no, it's good. Been good.
There's a million things I've got to ask you, so I'm going to go rapid fire on lots of different things here. Let's start off with what you brought up in Parliament today, is when you stood up and you asked a question about the Australian Defence Force spending more than $1 million on gender reassignment for 17 different members of the ADF. What did you think of the response of the Defence Minister, who said nothing to see here?
Well, she didn't really answer the question. They can't answer it. So anyway, as far as she's concerned, well, these people have health issues, so we've got to back them, we've got to support them. Hey, not at the expense of the taxpayers, thank you very much. This is a personal choice in their life to have a gender change, a sex change, or breast enhancements, and the taxpayers paying for this. And then we have all their pharmaceutical costs, their ongoing costs. And guess another thing, Paul, is that they won't put them on Navy ships because they don't have the facilities for them, they don't have the separate toilets for them, and then they can only use the disabled toilets for a certain period of time. So what are they going to do with these people? I just think it's ridiculous. If you want to have a sex change, go and pay for it yourself. Medicare doesn't pay for it. Why is the Defence paying for it?
So do you agree with Donald Trump, who had a view that trans people shouldn't be serving at all in the American military? If somebody does leave the Defence Force, should they be able to return as somebody of the different gender?
Look, I've got no problems with that if they are doing the job, all right? We're not there to prop up people if they want to have a sex change or whatever. If they can do the job, I believe the job for the best person, and of course that's okay. But to go into the Defence Forces, decide then, oh, I want a sex change. Oh, well, you can actually pay for my sex change, or I don't like my boobs, they're not big enough, so I want a boob enhancement. Oh, come on. You know, when I see, Paul, when I actually meet, returned servicemen who are on PTSD, they're homeless, they're drug and alcohol, we have, war veterans that aren't being looked after, I think it's disgraceful, and I will say that. Well, I think it's disgraceful. Look after these people that really need and have the health issues. These people don't have health issues. If they do, don't go into the Defence Force. You shouldn't be in there in the first place. Well,
how do you feel about, veterans groups saying that there's 69 members of the Defence Force that have taken their own life, former members of the ADF in the past, so far this year? That's a shocking number. The Minister suggests it's a little bit lower, but if it's one, it's too many. What can we do to better support those that do return to this country after serving it?
Look, I've had meetings with them. Paul, they're with their not comrades, I don't like the word comrades, they're with their mates, all right? So every day, day in, day out, they're the guys that are backing them up. If they've been overseas, they're there. They rely on each other. That's their mates. And actually probably closer to them, their own families. So when they come back and they're out of the Defence Force, they actually feel they're alone. And it's hard for them to actually integrate back into society. 1 minute their job full on, everything's done for them, and next minute they're in society and they feel totally alone. What the government needs to do is, as soon as they're out of the army, they must have another job to go immediately into. These guys are highly trained, but they're finding it extremely hard to get jobs because no one wants to put them on. We need to ensure the first 3 to 6 months they're out of the service, make sure they have a job to go to. We've got to do that. We've got to help them and support them.
As we speak, the Prime Minister is talking to his Cabinet. Tomorrow he'll talk to his party room about trying to do something about the power crisis that exists around the country. We know that in Queensland, your state leader, Steve Dixon, has said that the price of support for whoever will form the next government is a coal-fired power station in Queensland. If Malcolm Turnbull comes up with anything other than building a brand new coal-fired power station, will he have done enough?
No, look, Paul, we need the coal-fired, power station for base load. The renewables don't produce it. Here we have in Queensland, our state government is ripping out of the pockets of businesses, mums and dads, pensioners, $1.3 billion a year, and putting it into consolidated revenue. We've got to ensure that we can supply this power. Businesses cannot afford it. And I blame the Prime Minister because he hasn't dealt with the gas that we have off the northwest shelf. They're going to pour $90 million into researching for gas, coal seam gas mining in Australia, onshore gas mining. Now, let's utilise the gas we have in 31 retention sites off the West Coast shelf that's been tied up there for 30 years. We know there's gas there. We can actually get that a lot cheaper. And it disgusts me to think that we are not recovering the monies. We estimated around about $30 to $35 billion worth of gas went out of this country to overseas countries. We pulled in only $800 million from that. Chevron will not pay taxes for the next 20 years because the credits have amounted to around about $240 billion in tax credits. This government is bloody hopeless, same as the past, and these deals that they have done. We need to look at the Tully Mill stream of getting hydropower going again. We need to build coal-fired power stations, and what I want to do in Queensland, I'll build 1, 2, 3, I don't care. We will be the power state of the nation if the other states don't get their act together and start giving power to the people and businesses. Otherwise, they're going to shut down. We're going to lose industries, manufacturing, jobs. We're in dire straits.
Now, obviously, your hope is that your leader, Steve Dickson, would be able to become the Premier or the opposition leader, but most likely there will be a result where Tim Nicholls and the LNP would be relevant to being able to potentially be the next government. They'd only be able to do it, obviously, with the support of One Nation. But today you called him arrogant and rude. So will you put the bloke into power who you believe is arrogant and rude?
Well, I told you who I think should be in the seat, and that's Tidden Mander. He should be there, you know. Tim Nicholls needs to start to realise that if he wants to be Premier of the state, then he talks to One Nation. He talks to Steve Dickson. Don't go out there with this attitude, well, I'm going to put him last and spend, you know, $1 million to $2 million, which that came out of, you know, the LNP office, that they're going to actually throw everything at to get rid of Steve Dickson. Steve Dickson was LNP. Steve Dickson was a minister in the same government that Tim Nicholls was in. I think he is arrogant, and he needs to start to wake up. The same as Anastasia Palaszczuk. I think they're both rude, they're arrogant. It is the people's choice. If the people choose to put One Nation into members on the floor of Parliament, then they have a responsibility to work with us. We have proven our worth in the floor of Parliament here in Canberra. We work with anyone. We work with the government. We have voted with the Greens. We voted with the Labor Party. It's about working for the people of this country, and the people are fed up with these arrogant politicians who think they can do and say whatever they want to. So
just finally, if the LNP chooses to run dead in Steve Dickson's seat, they don't spend the money that they're planning to spend in the same way that you've said that there's certain MPs you won't put last because they've given One Nation a fair crack. Will that change your opinion about Tim Nicholls? That basically if they say, look, we cede that seat to One Nation, then he will no longer be arrogant and rude in your mind?
Look, if we've got a good candidate to stand against Tim Nicholls' seat, I don't owe Tim Nicholls anything whatsoever. It is the people to decide. But if they want to really target One Nation, go after Steve Dickson and spend a lot of money in that seat, when I'm sure the LNP members of Parliament would dearly love some of that money in their electorates to ensure that they get re-elected again. I think it's rude and arrogant on behalf of the LNP if they're thinking about doing this to One Nation, the seat of One Nation. We are a threat to them, have no doubt about that, because they've lost their way with the people of Queensland. Tim Nicholls only comes up with policies after we've actually put it out there. He has no vision for the future. I think he's failed in the past. He's failed as an opposition leader. But anyway, if we are there on the floor of Parliament, if it comes to it, now I'm not saying who we're going to support, because I think it depends on where the vote goes, how many seats are won, and it depends on what we can get for Queensland, who we support to govern.
All right, Senator, thank you so much. Good to hear you fighting for as many
Thanks,
as you
Paul.
are in Canberra. We'll talk to you soon.